Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. We are the group of the light green. With me, Alfred Gonzalez as its leader.
And I'm A.DorDionisio.
And I'm Alje Tarucan.
And I am Mariz Centeno, and we are the members of Group Light Green.
Now, we are here to discuss about the tidal energy power. But first, we are here first to discuss what is the renewable energy first. Renewable energy came from a source that is not depletable when used, thus naturally replenish on a human timescale. Ito nga po yung mga madadali pong ma-acquire po or di madali. Pero sila po yung mga na-recover naman po. Di po kamukha siya ng fossil fuels and such. Ito po yung mga sunlight, wind, tides, waves, and geothermal heat. Ito nga po yung mga renewable energy na we know. Solar, wind, hydro, frozen, ocean, hydro, and geothermal, and also bioenergy. Now, we are here about tidal power in general. These things are powered by tidal, of course, and is harnessed by converting energy from tides into useful forms of power, mainly electricity using various methods. This will be discussed later on. But first, we are going to talk about how these tides are use. The principle is such that the tidal energy is created using the movement of our tides and oceans, where the intensity of the water from the rise and fall is a form of kinetic energy. This tidal power is surrounds gravitational hydropower. With some words, the tidal energy is used to move the turbines using the waves. Yan nga po. But how does these tides form, right? The high and low tides are caused by the moon. Of course, it's the moon because it cannot be created by anything else. The moon's gravitational pull generates something called the tidal force. These tidal forces cause the earth and its water to bulge out in the sides closest to the moon and the side farthest from the moon. These bulges of water are the high tides nga po. The most costly areas, with some exception, experience 2 high tides and 2 low tides every lunar day. Because the Earth rotates through 2 tidal bulges every lunar day, coastal areas experience 2 high tides and 2 low tides every 24 hours and 50 minutes. High tides occur 12 hours and 25 minutes apart. It takes 2 hours, 6 hours, and 12.5 minutes for the water at the shore to go from high to low or low to high. As you can see here nga po, yung tidal forces po is being moved to the moon using the moon's gravitational force to pull the water out, also from the farther side of it. Because the water is being pulled to the closer here, the water in the middle gets shrunk and the water goes outwards. This causes on the side of the Earth is moon called the high tide. The high tide causes by the bulge of the side of the Earth called the low high tide. Nga po, in-explain ko lang po kanina. On the side facing the moon nga po, the gravitational attraction between the Earth and the moon is strongest on the side of the Earth that happens to be facing the moon because nga po, simply because it's closest nga po naman eh. This attraction causes the water on this near side nga po of the Earth to be pulled towards the moon. This force acts on to draw the water closer to the moon. Inertia attempts to keep the water in place, and the gravitational force succeeded, and the water is pulled towards the moon. Yun nga po. Paulit-ulit na lang po tayo ngayon dito. Sa tataas, i-compress yung gitna, tapos doon sa kabila, ganun nga lang po. Ganun din po nangyari sa opposite of the moon, pero of the far side nga naman po ngayon. The gravitational attraction of the moon is less because it is farther away. Hence, inertia naman na po ang nagpapagalaw. Na yung na-exceed na naman po yung gravitational and the water keeps going in a straight line. Moving away from the Earth, also forming a bulge. Yun nga lang po, inertia and the moon ang nagpapakos ng bulge. Ito po ang list ng largest tidal power stations on the world. Shinhua Lake Tidal Power, Rance Tidal Power, Annapolis, Royal, Meijin, and Jiangxi Tidal Power from China. Now, there are many types of tidal power nga po, pero konti lang po ang alam natin. Yeah. These are the tidal stream, tidal barrage, and tidal lagoon, which will be discussed by my members.
First is tidal stream generator. Tidal stream generator are very similar to wind turbine, except they are below the water surface instead of above or on land. The water current pushes the blades of the turbine, which is connected to a generator that creates electricity. Tidal stream generator are able to produce much more electricity than wind power plants, mainly because of water is denser than air. However, water's high density also means that tidal turbines need to be much stronger than wind turbines, making more expensive to manufacture. Tidal stream generator turbines are large, but they created relatively little disruption to the ecosystem around them as compared to tidal barrage. The world's first tidal stream generator was constructed in 2000 at Strangford Lough in Northern Ireland. So dito is katulad lang siya ng wind, mga windmill. Kaya lang pinagkaiba is ginagamit niya yung water para produce ng electricity. So ayun, so ginagamit yung ayan yung itsura niya. So like sa windmill, meron din siyang 2 LEC. Meron din siyang LEC. So ayan, ibababa sa ilalim ng tubig yan. So through waves, pag umiikot yan, nakapag-generate ngayon ng electricity. So ito yung mga type of turbines used in tidal stream generator. So magkakaiba sila ng style o nung design. So meron tayong both Savonius turbine, hot-towered turbine, Darius turbine. So ayan yun.
The next is the types of tidal power. The tidal barrage. Tidal barrage are the low-walled dams usually installed at tidal inlets or estuaries. Similarly to traditional hydroelectric dams, sluice gates are used to create a reservoir on the side of the barrage. The barrage is secured to the seafloor while the top of the barrage is just slightly above where the water level hits during the highest tide. Tidal turbines are located towards the bottoms of the barrage inside the tunnel, which allow the water is flow through. Yung tidal barrage nga daw ay isa siyang low-walled dams. Saka ini-installed siya sa isang tidal inlets o tinatawag na yung baybayin na nakapaloob, baybayin na nakapaloob sa isang anyong tubig na naghahalo yung alat tabang tapos tabang na tubig. Tapos yung tidal barrage nga daw is isa siyang traditional hydroelectric dams na nagki-create din ng energy. Tapos yung tidal turbines niya is naka-located doon sa ilalim ng barrage or sa inside ng tunnel. Ito yung example ng tidal barrage na Rance Tidal Power Barrage na naka-located sa France. Ito yung dito pinapakita yung example kung paano gumagana ang isang tidal barrage na palipat-lipat lang siya ng pag kunwari is high tide sa isang side po siya kumukuha sa tidal basin niya. Ito yung tinatawag na tidal basin. Tapos yung tidal barrage EBS generation naman, yung nasa kabila naman po na nagpapaikot sa turbine. Kumbaga, palipat-lipat lang po siya. They are the video na nagpapaliwanag sa aking sinasabi, the tidal barrage. Okay, next.
Next naman po is yung tidal lagoon. A new tidal energy design option is to construct circulating retaining walls embedded with turbines that can capture the potential energy tides. The created reservoirs are similar to those of tidal barrages, except that the location is artificial and does not contain a pre-existing ecosystem. A cancelled tidal lagoon Swansea Bay in Wales, United Kingdom would have been the first tidal power station of this type once built. So, yung tidal lagoon po ay medyo similar po siya sa tidal barrage. A tidal lagoon po is a power station that generates electricity from the natural rise and fall of the tides. Parang halos kaparehas lang po siya nung tidal barrage. And tidal lagoons work in a similar way to tidal barrages by capturing a large volume of water behind a man-made structure which is then released to drive turbines and generate electricity.
So these are the advantage of tidal energy. So the advantage is renewable. Tidal energy is renewable source of energy, which means the energy doesn't deplete as it is used. Zero carbon emission. In addition to being a renewable energy source, tidal power station do not emit greenhouse gases during electricity generation. So unlike sa mga popular na ginagamit ng mga gumagamit ng mga chemicals or mga coal na nagbubuga ng maruming basta yung mga pollution na nakaka-apekto sa ating earth. So yun yung pinagkaiba niya ng tidal energy. So sa predictable naman, tidal currents are highly predictable. Low and high tides follow well-known cycles, making it easier to know when power will be produced through the day. So ayun nga, gaya nga silang binanggit kanina na meron tayong mga gravitational pulse na yun na pe-predict yung kung kailan mangyari. So dito, malalaman natin kung kailan talaga siya makapag-produce ng energy. So high power output. Tidal power plants are able to produce high amount of electricity. One of the main reasons for this because water is so dense, almost 800 times more dense than air. This means that a tidal turbine will produce substantially more energy than a wind turbine of the same size. So ayun, mas nga siya, more than 800 times dense siya sa air. So mas malaki ang chance dito na makapag-produce talaga ng energy.
And the next is the disadvantage of the tidal world, tidal energy. Limited installation sites. Ito nga lang yung nga lang siya, yun nga tinatawag, limited nga lang siya sa isang site na mapag-installan ng isang tidal na tinatawag na yung tatlong type ng tidal energy. Limited nga lang siya. O in order of the tidal power plant to build to potential installation site which meet very specific requirements. Yun nga, dahil masyado siyang komplikado, pero hindi naman ganun, pero ganun na rin yan. Komplikado. Kaya limitado lang yung pag-install sa isang tidal energy. There are additional requirements a potential site must meet. For example, tidal power station needs to be built placed where the difference in high between high and low tide and significance enough to power turbines. Ito nga daw yung limited nga lang din daw makahanap ng isang tidal power station na magsisignificance ng o magpapaikot sa isang power turbines. And next is the limit where the power stations can be installed, making it difficult for tidal power to be implemented widely. Yun nga, yung sinasabi ko kanina, limited nga lang yung pag-install sa isang tidal energy o tidal power. The next is the expensive. One of the biggest drawbacks to the tidal power is the high upfront cost. Tidal energy turbine need to be much sturdier and wind turbines because of the high density of water. Ito ang una dito is yung tinatawag nga yung mas mapapamahal mahal ang pagpapagawa ng isang malaking tidal energy o yung tinatawag na yun nga tidal energy. Tidal energy is the need to study or yun nga mahirap din siyang pag-aralan. because nga daw sa high density of the water. Most of the tidal power plants that are currently in operations are made of tidal barrage. The construction of the tidal barrage is extremely expensive. The ranch power plants was expensive to build in its day. It took around 20 years to actually pay for itself. This is one of the major reasons to propose 30. Burn barrage has not gone ahead. Next. Environmental effect. Tidal barrage disrupt the natural flow of water and the out of estuaries. This can be have an effect on marine life, disruption, life cycle, and spawning. Underwater turbine have the potential to kill marine life, much like wind turbine kill birds. This certain it valid amongst all tidal power plants, but larger marine life is likely to only be affected by tidal stream generator. It runs since the tidal barrage construction needed to drain the estuary in the initial years after constructions were completed. There were severe impacts to the local environment. However, 10 years later, it was considered that trans estuary once again had the rich diversity of aquatic life. After the seawall has built in 1994, pollution built up in the newly created Chiwa Lake Reservoir, making its water useless for agriculture. Concentrations of perparoctane sulfonate or the PFOS measures in Lake Siwa were among the greatest ever measure in the environment. Dito daw sa environmental effect, 'di ba, kino-consider nga natin yung tidal energy is nakalubog siya sa isang sea o sa isang karagatan. Kaya yung marine life nga daw is naapektuhan, nagkakamatay yung mga isda ganun. Tapos naman sa isang wind turbine naman is nakakapatay din siya ng mga ibon. There is the environmental effect of the tidal energy.
So ito naman po yung future of tidal energy. Tidal energy has the potential to offer all the power need, eliminating the need for fossil fuels. As stated by CIMEC Atlantis Energy, the tide moves a huge amount of water twice a day. Harnessing it could provide a great deal of energy, around 20% of Britain's needs. However, as tidal technology has only been available for a few decades, many challenges remain. British companies and universities are currently developing a new wave of technology supported by grants for the 50 million euros Marine Renewables Deployment Fund. Almost 10 years ago, the Southwest Regional Development Agency installed the Wave Hub, the most technologically sophisticated open access site for testing offshore renewable technologies, 16 kilometers off the Cornwall coast. Another company also making a splash in the United Kingdom is the European Marine Energy Center, EMEC in Orkney. So yung tidal energy, hindi siya very common sa ating lahat, especially, hindi siya common para sa lahat, especially sa atin. And it's still, hindi pa siya 100% na recommended or hindi pa siya mainstream na pinagkukuhanan ng energy. And past years, hindi pa rin siya ganun ka-successful na mapunta sa mainstream. And ang future nga ng tidal energy is mas marami pang interested and gustong maging sustainable yung tidal energy for everyone.
Idadagdag ko nga po pala dun sa disadvantage niya po is yung marami pong proseso para po makapag-install ng isang tidal energy. Yun lang po.
Ganun nga po nga. The disadvantage nga po ng tidal power is marami nga po. Kasama na nga po sa limited installation sites, the expensiveness of it, and the environmental effects. There's another disadvantage of it. That is the power produced is not consistent with the usage of the people. Minsan nga po, the effects of alam nga naman po natin yung cycle po ng waves, high tide at low tide. Minsan po, hindi naman po sasakto. Minsan, high tide nga po ng tanghali, wala naman po gagamit ng kuryente sa tanghali. Nagla-lunch po sila. Hindi naman po nagtatrabaho po sila. Nga po, kahit sa gabi nga po, kailangan nga po natin, wala naman pong high tide. Ganun po. Di po siya magagamit madalas dahil even if the tides are there, it is not going to be useful if the power is used excess and ganyan po. And that's it nga po. This is our discussion of the tidal power for this week. We are the group of the light green. With me, the leader of it, Alfred Gonzalez.
And I'm A.DorDionisio.
I'm Alje Tarucan.
And I am Mariz Centeno. We are the members of the group Light Green.
And this is to us saying good night, America.